All right. Good morning. So, Trump derangement syndrome is real, and it's normally associated with leftists and Trump haters. You know, everything he does, they go apoplectic. If I said that correctly. They bust a gasket every time he does something that they don't like, which is just about every day. You can see it on Twitter. You can see it on mainstream media, on YouTube. But Trump derangement syndrome also exists on the right with Trump supporters. And I don't know why that is. I don't know where it stems from. I think it comes from the fact that Trump is most famous for being a reality TV star. So politics in the media and even in Washington have become gossip. Gossip of a political nature, not gossip regarding, who's sleeping with who secretly and who's had an affair, but gossip in the terms of everything Trump says or tweets is indicative of some shift in policy or philosophy, or is indicative of him, turning his back on his supporters. And I'll be honest, as a supporter, there is some concern over some things that have happened recently. The sort of fleeing of the ship, I guess not really the right metaphor, but whatever. Dr. Sebastian Gorka, no longer in the Trump cabinet in the White House. Steve Bannon, no longer in the Trump White House. I don't know why they left and said, I'm still on his side. I'm still fighting for him. I'm not quite sure I understand that, except to think that maybe Trump is embattled on all sides in the White House, and there are those within his inner circle who really want the president to do well, but have a different vision. And those are Washington insiders, and I don't mean Washington insiders as a pejorative. I mean people who know how Washington works, but also want Trump to actually succeed. And then there's the outsiders, Steve Bannon, the Dr. Sebastian Gorka, a couple of other people, who are Washington outsiders, want Trump to succeed, but can't help him where they are. And that's sort of my assessment of what's happened recently in that cabinet shakeup. But the derangement syndrome on the part of Trump supporters was made all too evident recently in the last day or so, when it came out on the AP that apparently Trump had made a deal with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer regarding DACA and amnesty, and how that deal did not include anything to do with the wall. Now, when people heard this, they were like, what the hell? He's turning his back on his supporters. The fact that he's talking to Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer means he's turning his back on the Republicans. Well, he never was a Republican to begin with. He ran on the Republican ticket because his policies were clearly not Democrat. At one point, Trump was part of the Reform Party movement. But people are like losing their minds over like, oh no, he's abandoning his supporters, and he's waffling, or he's flip-flopping on the wall and stuff like that. And they look at his tweets and they say, see, he's flip-flopping on the wall. Even Ann Coulter, who is a smart cookie and knows her shit, I think she's been such a hardcore Trumper that, any sort of shift has really caused her to become very upset, right? Because she had this idea in mind of what Trump was when he was campaigning. And I guess this goes the same for every one of Trump's supporters. They have this idea of what he was when he was campaigning, and what he said they took to be, you know, the literal truth. All the while telling people, hey, take him seriously, but don't take him literally. And I get that. I get they feel like, hey, he seems to be waffling. But I would wait. I would wait and see what the results are instead of like losing your shit. Now, there's some cynicism in Washington, and there's some cynicism saying Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are doing this, are making these statements, and the AP are making these statements in an effort to undermine Trump's support from his base. I don't know how effective that's going to be. Because like all voters, people vote with their heart, they don't vote with their head. And while Republicans tend to be more steadfast in their principles and will turn on Republican candidates who betray their trust, I don't think they're going to do it with Trump, because as disappointing as they might be, there's no way they're going to put in another establishment Republican. Not his supporters anyway. And I think there's more supporters in the Republican Party than there are, you know, old school neocon Republicans. I think those people are actually only in Washington. I don't think the neocon Republicans are really part of the voting base of the Republican Party. When the Republican electorate, I should say, votes for people like Ryan and McConnell, I don't think they do it because they necessarily share a neocon position on a lot of the issues. I think they do it grudgingly. I think they do it holding their nose. They realize they can't vote for a Democrat, and they have to vote for the Republican. And unfortunately, the establishment is behind a specific Republican who maybe they find distasteful, but they got to vote him in anyway. And I think that's the only reason McConnell and Ryan and McCain have stayed in power. Now, the idea that Trump is switching parties by working with Schumer and Pelosi, you know what? I don't think Trump really cares about party. Like I said, I don't think he's actually a Republican. I mean, you say he's a Republican, but he's Trump, and he's self-interested before anything else. And he's more concerned with having his agenda realized, because he's not a politician, and he doesn't play the game by the same rules as guys like McConnell and Ryan. He's not gaining a lot of traction on that side of things. So him going over to Pelosi and Schumer, as unfortunate as that is, and as much as I don't think he really wants to, I think he's being pragmatic about it. He realizes, look, if I'm not going to get any help with people in my own party in Congress, then I have to work with people who are, you know, I have to try something else. And so, you know, just speaking to Pelosi and Schumer doesn't mean anything. And my intuition is that he may be playing all nicey nice with them, but in reality, he's playing them for his own ends. Apparently there was a hot mic that caught Chuck Schumer saying, you know, being all giddy, going, he likes us, so he likes me anyway. I don't know. I haven't heard it, but this is apparently what's out there. So I think they're more enamored with him than he is with them. Now, on the DACA thing, on the specific issue of the DACA thing, so I should touch on that because I'm sort of meandering about politics and party and stuff, but people are upset about Trump's supposed flip-flopping on DACA and how he's going to offer amnesty. But he came right out and said, no, there's no amnesty. We're not talking about amnesty. We're saying Congress needs to do its job with regards to DACA. They need to either make it law, and it's got to be a law that I'm willing to sign, or it's going to end in 6 months. That's it. So he's put them in a hard position, right? Because they've got to make something that's reasonable to him. And he even came out and said, look, it's not amnesty. We're talking about letting people stay here, but we're not talking about amnesty. Now, personally, I think that, and Ben Shapiro said this last night at his speech in Berkeley, people should be judged on a case-by-case basis. These dreamers, these so-called dreamers, need to be judged on a case-by-case basis and then put into the system. And now the United States has a points-based system, it should be easy for them, right? Most of them speak English and Spanish. Most of them are graduated high school. If we're talking about an individual who's, no criminal record, doesn't use government benefits, pays their own way, is going to school or has graduated school or whatever, those people should just be put in the system. Now, I think they should be sort of given, I don't want to say preferential treatment, but special consideration, let's say, simply because they've been in the country for 16, 17 years, let's say, and they know the United States as their home. So that's my personal thought on the whole DACA thing. Now, the other thing that's a little bit more troubling, and Milo came out and spoke about this recently in a radio interview, I think it was, or a podcast. They put a resolution, a joint resolution in front of the president, or they're going to be putting in front of the president, calling upon the White House to condemn and use all its available means to fight against specific hate groups in America. And they name the hate groups. The issue I have is it's basically asking him to contradict what he said shortly after the Charlottesville attack. And this is all predicated on the whole Charlottesville thing, right? Anyway, if he signs it as Sarah Huckabee Sanders says he will, in its current form, I think that would be bad. That would look bad on Trump. It would look bad to Trump supporters, and they would not be very happy with it. Because it calls out white nationalists, white supremacists, the KKK, neo-Nazis, but it doesn't say anything about Antifa, it doesn't say anything about Black Lives Matter, who, in my opinion, are hate groups. And don't do anything good to the conversation, don't help anything at all, despite what they might say. What I'm expecting will probably happen is that he may sign it, but also put his own president's signer notes. Presidents can put little notes at the bottom of resolutions. Dude, like, I can't get in or out. What are you fucking doing? There's this giant truck here. Sorry to stall the video here, but there's this giant, big transport truck in the driveway where I work, and I have to try and squeeze by him. And he's just sitting here. It's not like he's, trying to make a turn. He's just sitting here like a fucking goofball. Anyway, now I gotta try and get in a spot here. Anyway, so yeah, I think he's probably gonna sign that bill with what they call signer notes. And those are basically saying all this and, Obama did this, Bush did this a lot. Basically a resolution or a law would come before him, and he would put these things in the margin or at the bottom saying, yes, I'm signing this law, or yes, I'm signing this resolution, but I'm also adding these notes. And that would be an opportunity for Trump to say, yep, I condemn white nationalists, I condemn neo-Nazis, I condemn white supremacists, I condemn the KKK, and we will use every means in our power to, make sure that they don't do violence in America, blah, blah, blah. But also Antifa, Black Lives Matter, anarcho-communists, whoever else he wants to throw on there. Southern Poverty Law Center, that'd be fucking hilarious if he did that. Anyway, I don't know. That's just a few of my thoughts on the issue with regards to Trump derangement syndrome as is experienced on the right in this case. People on the right losing their minds every time Trump tweets or says something that goes against their vision of what Trump should be doing. Ben Shapiro's famous for this, but then he was never a Trump supporter. But he goes, ballistic whenever Trump does something that he thinks is bad, and he goes Trump bad, right? Or bad Trump. Anyway. Maybe I've got a more reasoned view of things, which may be unreasonable in the current climate. Anyway, thanks for watching, and like and subscribe if you like the video. Thanks.